professionals. And the way I put it is, with index investing, you get maximum reward for minimum effort. Now, to be clear, there is still risk. Your results are not guaranteed. We'll talk about that. But for my money, it's basically the smartest risk you can take, okay? It gives you the best chance of succeeding. So the way I see it, it's a no-brainer for busy people who want to invest, but they don't want to be professional investors. You don't want to study stocks. You don't want to spend all your evenings thinking about investing. Well, you set up an investment strategy, you buy index funds, and you don't have to do any of that, and you have a good chance of success. To me, it's not theoretical. This is how I invest my family's money. I've also done this professionally. Earlier, I told you about Indexo, the company that we built. Well, we called it Indexo because we used index funds. And this really simple strategy got our clients the best results in the whole country. And I think that's really cool. And it does not require a professional to do this. It literally takes just a few hours per year once you know what you're doing. The only challenge is right at the beginning when you have to set up your portfolio. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But basically, once index funds were invented, they made investing much easier. The formula used to be you have to make money, then you buy stocks, either pick stocks yourself or pay an expert, and then you multiply your savings. But today, you just make money at your job, you buy an index fund, it takes a few clicks, I'll show in a second, and the rest of the time, you don't have to think about it. You're investing passively, and these index funds are taking care of growing your wealth over time. All right? Okay, so next up, I'm going to do a demonstration of how to buy one of these funds. But before I do that, type yes in the chat if this makes sense so far. If you now understand why so many experts recommend index funds as the main investment for amateurs. Excellent. I see a lot of yeses, so hopefully we're clear so far. So then let's move on to the next step, which is a demonstration, right? Because when you hear about index funds, and you can get the impression that it's kind of complicated, right? Indexes, what are those? These instruments are actually quite simple. So I want to show you how to buy one of these just to lower that psychological barrier that it might seem difficult. Now, to be clear, this is just a demonstration. You should not copy what I'm going to be doing one for one. The broker I will use, the specific fund that I'm going to choose, they might not be the best choice in your case. In some countries, because of tax reasons, these could be bad choices, right? So this is just a demonstration. Also, the type of index fund I will buy is called an ETF. You probably have heard about ETFs, so exchange traded funds. I will not get into the technical details. Basically, index funds and ETFs are like iPhone and Android. There's a different user experience, but it's basically the same thing under the hood. You get very similar results. And in most European countries, it's much easier to buy ETFs than index funds. So for this demonstration, I will use an ETF. I will buy the iShares Core MSCI Europe UCITS ETF accumulating. Now, at first, that sounds like a really complicated name, right? In reality, it's really, really simple. This is a fund that buys the stocks of the biggest companies in Europe. It has some complications, right? For example, because it's an accumulating fund type, it can be better for taxes in some countries, like maybe Belgium or France. It could be less advantageous in other countries like Austria or the UK. And that is what makes investing from Europe a little bit tricky. There's local rules, right? We'll talk about that. But for now, let me just go ahead and do a quick demonstration of how you actually buy this fund. So to do that, I'm going to have to log into an investment app, a brokerage. A brokerage is basically a supermarket where you buy investments, with the added complication that a brokerage also holds on to your investments. So it's important to choose a brokerage that is licensed, reputable, and financially strong. I actually have something like 15 different brokerage accounts because I review them professionally. For my personal investments, I use more technically advanced brokerages, but for this demonstration, I'm going to use a really, really simple brokerage, a simple app that is easy for beginners to use. So I'm going to use Trading 212. So let me just share my screen. Hold on a second. Okay, so Trading 212, here we go. So when you log into this brokerage, you see a bunch of information like about losing stocks, winning stocks. You can look at the most traded stocks. Most of this is aimed at active traders because brokers make most of their money from active traders who buy and sell a lot. As a long-term investor, I don't care about any of that noise. I just want to find the long-term investment that I need. Okay, so I hit search and I type in the name, iShares Core MSCI Euro. Now, immediately you'll see that there's different options. You have this accumulating version. You also have a distributing version. You can buy it on the German stock exchange Xetra. You can buy it on the London Stock Exchange, on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. You can buy it in euros or pounds or Swiss francs or dollars. So there's some variations. But for simplicity, I'm just going to pick the first one in euros on the German Stock Exchange. Normally, when buying ETFs, I would recommend using what is called a limit order. This is where you tell the broker, I want one share, and then you tell the maximum price that you are willing to pay. For simplicity, I'm going to skip that right now because then you have to look up what our current market price is and set the price correctly, and there's some nuances. You can also use what is called a market order, where you simply tell the broker, get me one share at whatever the latest price is. It's a little less safe. There's some risk you might get a price that is not ideal in some cases, but most of the time it's okay. So right now I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a market order, and I'm going to ask the broker to buy one share of this fund. Okay, I hit review order. Everything looks good. I hit send buy order. And pretty much instantly, the broker tells me I bought one share at 99.24. So I just invested my humble 99 euros in hundreds of different companies across Europe. And when you think about it, that's pretty crazy, right? I mean, 100 years ago, the richest person in the world could not do it. But today, anybody with a smartphone or a laptop, anybody who can click through a food delivery app, can also click through an investment app and invest in an ETF and invest in a diversified way with low costs in a very easy manner. Okay. So this is why today investing is so much easier than it ever was before, right? I mean, this is why this formula, you make money, you buy some index funds or ETFs, and you multiply your savings. Like, this is a real game changer, because once you set up your portfolio, I mean, once